Hello friends, welcome or welcome back. I am Venicia, and on this channel we talk all about cybersecurity and how you can succeed as a professional in cybersecurity. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about becoming a penetration tester starting from zero. So from a penetration tester perspective, let's first understand that there are many names for this job and for this type of skill set. Now, there are many different names because the role actually varies in accordance with the name. A penetration tester can also be known as an ethical hacker. There are also bug bounty hunters that basically do similar kinds of things that penetration testers do, and so that is also a variation of this role. Sometimes they're called offensive security professionals, they're called red teamers, and so there's a whole list of different names that this role can be called, but it would essentially require similar types of skills in order to get into any one of these roles. So I hope that makes sense. Firstly, let's talk about what a penetration test is. Now, a penetration test simply is used to measure how vulnerable an asset, an IT infrastructure component, an application, a website, or really anything digital is. This can even span into critical infrastructure spaces where there are industrial control systems, and you then have a person that is skilled and that knows how to do certain things in order to test and assess how vulnerable certain systems are. Second to that, these pen tests also enable organizations to know what their vulnerabilities are and which security controls are required to then actually mitigate or defend against those vulnerabilities. And that's why it is often known as red teaming type engagements, because your ethical hacker or pen tester type professional would come in and assess basically how secure that system is, whether you have set up that system so that it is, not easily exploitable. And so that's why they're often referred to as red teamers as well. Now, there are various different forms of pen tests that can be done. It can be a simple vulnerability scan where you basically have a tool and you scan it against these systems to assess different vulnerabilities, and this would typically be known vulnerabilities. So there's a common vulnerability database, and pen testers would then scan these systems for known vulnerabilities. Second to that, you can go a step further and they can do actual social engineering type attacks against that organization. Thirdly, it can be assessments against a particular application or a common component within an application that can be assessed and tested. And then finally, this can be basically a string of attacks put together to really exploit how far a tester can go within an organization. So if they've compromised the perimeter and they've gotten into one system or one server or one application, how can they elevate from there? How can they laterally move, elevate their privileges, and then get to basically the crown jewels, whether that be your identity systems or your financial systems in a financial services organization. Basically, they try and compromise a certain target. All right, and then finally, with regards to the pen testing process, basically there is an entire life cycle that is followed. So depending on what kind of assessment is being done, whether it's a black box test or a gray box test, or whether they have received a lot of the information for the system that they are assessing, it just then depends how much reconnaissance or information gathering they would need to do up front, and then what type of results they are finding in the assessment, so how vulnerable or compromisable that system is, what are the critical risks that the business needs to focus on at that point. They then report on that. They also are sometimes in the advisory room to advise the IT professionals on how to actually remediate those vulnerabilities. And then thereafter, they would validate it again, meaning once it's been remediated, test it again, scan again, do the compromise assessment again to validate that it's actually been remediated. And in summary, that is the job of a penetration tester. Now, this job and this role is, number one, highly in demand. Second to that, one consideration to have is also that it is one of the most well-known jobs within cybersecurity. So people are like, you work in cybersecurity, are you a hacker? It's just a thing. So one thing to understand, if you are looking to get into this field and this domain of cybersecurity from zero, you have to consider that you have to build skills. You have to be able to demonstrate these skills. You're going to have to be able to network with a lot of people, and you're going to have to figure out what makes you different. What is your X factor, and what is going to help you to stand out from the crowd of a lot of people that is applying for the same job as you. Just remember, the more people applying for the job, the less likely your chances are of getting that job, unless you have something that makes you different and some people that you network with and, a good portfolio to demonstrate your skills. Okay, so let's look at some of the core skills and core skill requirements. As always with cybersecurity, there's always something bigger. There's always something more. You have to decide where do you want to focus within the hacking space. Now, you can be a network pen tester, infrastructure tester, or you can be application specifically web app tester, or you can test against industrial control systems. But that's what I mean with that X factor. Look at what is going to make you stand out from the crowd, and go for something that is really more focused and perhaps less saturated in the field. How I would go about doing this is going to check on different job websites for ethical hackers wanted, or pen testers needed, and I would then go and check whether they have specific job requirements. So are they looking for someone to test industrial control systems? Are they looking for someone to test against web applications, etc.? Because these all require different kinds of skills and knowledge about different kinds of systems. So definitely consider which space you want to focus into in the ethical hacking space. You can always span across the board once you get a lot of that experience against your name and a lot of the skills that you need to build, but think initially where you want to focus into from a testing and skill building perspective. Okay, next, you want to go onto different platforms and build your skills. This is a skill that's really similar to coding, and a lot of the times you actually do require a bit of coding for a pen testing type role, because you've got to write certain exploits and you've got to test certain things, and you've got to understand different processes, etc. But without getting too deep into the coding requirements for a pen tester, go onto platforms like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, and just go and look at the beginner paths into pen testing and ethical hacking. On Try Hack Me, it would be the beginner security path and then the red teaming path instead of the defender path. On Hack the Box, start with the easiest boxes and then build your way up from there. So those are two platforms that you can typically look at in order to start building your pen testing skills. Now, another platform that's really good, it's been a recent discovery, but it is the INE Starter Pass. I know so many people who has been doing the INE training, and it is really, really good from an ethical hacking perspective. So definitely have a look at that and start with the starter pass training, and I think that can really help you from a skills building perspective. All right, let's talk about certifications. Now, one of the main certifications that's been well known and well recognized in the industry has been the CEH certification by EC Council. While I think this certification is still good, it's still fine, I think there are others that are really good contenders from an ethical hacking perspective, and that actually allows you to build skills and practice instead of the theoretical nature of the CEH certification. Now, I think I'm going to mention these in order, and you can have a look at them, but this is just, some of the starting points that you can consider. So theoretical certifications that you can look at from an ethical hacking perspective is the CEH certification. Theoretical, I'm not sure that it is my top recommended certification, to be honest. I think that there are others out there that you can definitely have a look at, but CEH is still highly recognized in the industry. Secondly, you can have a look at the CompTIA Pen Test Plus certification. Now, this one is also quite theoretically focused. However, it is actually a great certification to gain that foundational knowledge from a pen testing perspective. Thirdly, you can look at the PNPT certification. Now, this certification is highly recommended by many ethical hacking professionals, especially the ones that's recently been obtaining pen testing certifications. And having a look at this, I think this is a really great certification and something that you can definitely consider. If you are not keen on doing the CEH certification, then definitely consider the PNPT certification. As always, I will have all the information down in the description box below. And while we're talking about it, definitely, if you like this content, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified. And don't forget to give this video a like. Finally, certifications that I want to mention that you should really look into once you have started actually testing and building skills and getting hands-on from pen testing perspective is the certifications by offensive security. Now, the OSCP certification is a really highly demanded certification from a pen testing perspective because of the demanding nature of this certification from a practical perspective, reporting perspective, the type of knowledge that you need to have to pass and obtain the certification. It's highly recognized in the industry. So if you are looking to elevate and get to that next step and be really seen as a force to reckon with from a pen testing perspective, then definitely start with something like the OSCP as soon as you have actual hands-on technical experience. This is not something that you can start with in the beginning and be the first certification that you do, definitely not. But it is something that you can do along the lines. If you are working as a pen tester for about 6 months to a year, I would say, then start looking at the OSCP, and that can really elevate your career or set you apart from other professionals in the industry. All right, so next, let's look at what some of those opportunities are in from pen testing perspective. So in order to get the job, a lot of the times the barrier to entry for pen testers is really high because a lot of people are trying to get into this space. That would mean that before you can even get a job to get experience, you need to get experience on your own. And luckily, from a pen testing perspective and for the skills that you would build in this role, that is really possible. So firstly, you can do freelance pen testing. You can go onto any of the freelancing websites and go and be a contracted or freelance tester. And that's how you can build your skills firstly, and then also gain experience in that regard. Secondly, you can actually go and do bug bounties. Now, bug bounties is basically, it's offered by most major organizations where they have a bug bounty program. You sign up for that program. You then test against different systems and you try and find bugs in software that is published by the major vendors. And when you find a bug, you can submit this bug and you can then get money for that. Now, that is a really good way to make money while you're still learning and practice your skills on an ongoing basis. And that brings me to the final point, that if you do go the pen tester route, yes, you need skills. Yes, you need a lot of experience, but also, yes, you can work for yourself. You can work from anywhere in the world. You can do a lot of bug bounty programs and you can make a lot of money through those programs, depending on your dedication towards obviously finding these bugs. And therefore, I think that if you don't just set your sights on actually just getting a job, you can actually build skills and make money without necessarily having a full-time job, just by freelancing and just by doing bug bounty programs. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are looking to get into some of the other spaces within cybersecurity, like a security analyst path, check out this video because I have done a full cybersecurity analyst from zero video, and I hope you enjoy it. That is it for this video. I will catch you next time. Bye.